So PSA has a pretty interesting, well, no, I guess it's good. It's a good approach to social media. It's not. It's interesting because it's good, honestly, and that's why it's interesting because I feel like for a while, sports cards didn't even really need to be marketed. Like grading companies didn't really need to be marketed. Like I just it felt like everybody was doing the marketing for sports cards and for sports card products themselves. Like it really is one of the only industries that I feel like does self-sustaining marketing that like has this, and this is actually one of the reasons why I feel like Topps should almost be, they almost need to be perfect, and Panini, they need to be perfect with these products because like they literally are saving millions, and I don't even know if I would exaggerate by saying hundreds of millions of dollars a year from marketing in marketing costs alone because of everyone's social media and everybody on social media. So the fact that PSA, I feel like, has done a pretty good job over the past few years, sort of switching up the styling of their marketing and coming out with good looking marketing or good looking social media posts. Which again, it's we've seen a shift, I think, in the past few years of companies doing this and coming out with good posts for social media, where a few years ago it really wasn't like that. You really just saw like it was almost like even companies would just like be like, yeah, here's the link to this thing, here's the thing, like maybe they'd put out a picture, but it's like really the design posts really weren't a thing. So PSA tweeted out that they graded the 1/1 short print superfractor Shedeur Sanders autograph from this year's Bowman Chrome U. Now, I'll quickly go through this one topic, which I've gone through in the past, which is annoying to me. Numbered short prints don't make any sense unless all of the short prints are numbered. Like, it doesn't make sense to me to have multiple, like, it just doesn't make it all the short prints. There should be only one version of the short prints. There shouldn't be like the superfractors. There shouldn't be like the red autographs. There shouldn't be like the green number to 99s. Like, and I'm not even 100% sure if there is with some of the short prints, but like the fact that there's a short printed 1/1, like that seems kind of almost counterintuitive, if I'm going to be honest. Like it makes it like, what is the point? And I get it's probably to sell more product and add more cards into the product, but like I feel like there's, especially a short print autograph, like just put it on a different card, I guess. I mean, I don't know exactly how you do it, like, but I don't know. It does the short printed aspect of a card that's a 1/1. Calling it that, it seems like it's like, well, it's already a 1/1, so it's already a short print, but like the image variation, a short print version of a 1/1, again, like I said, it just doesn't make much sense. But that's something I've talked about on previous episodes as well, and it's maybe even something I want to dive into. I don't know. I think I did a whole episode on it like a couple months ago, like a month or two ago. So maybe I won't dive into it again, but either way, the other part of this topic that I think is interesting is going to be that it feels like PSA has really made a dent in the autograph grading market. Like, it feels like that's maybe been the biggest shift from PSA to BGS, and why we're seeing BGS really sort of falling off a little bit. I mean, I think each grading company, I think, sort of has they've carved out their own niche, but it felt like the autograph was part of Beckett's niche a couple years ago. Like, it felt like we didn't really see a lot of these big cards that had autographs being graded by PSA. We saw a lot of the like base cards being graded by PSA, but it felt like if you were talking about the niche of the niche of grading in the past, like maybe 2018, 2019, I would have definitely put Beckett in the niche of like autographs, like, but it feels like a lot of, and this could also be a marketing thing, if I'm going to be completely honest. Like, this could be PSA doing really good marketing, and that's why I'm seeing more autographs being graded by PSA. And like I said, this may be something that I feel like I'm seeing because of that, but it may not even necessarily be 100% true. But like, for example, like the one of one Mike Trout was crossed over from BGS to PSA at the National last year, not this last one, the year previous to that. So it's like the PSA holder, I feel like, just has so much of a staying power when it comes to like probably pricing, especially when you get these high grades. I mean, I think the Shedeur Sanders cards it's a 10 autograph with a 9 grade on the card. Now, I guess you could even go into, I guess this is another sort of topic for, not for this show, but grading one of ones. I think it's a fine idea. I think people get really triggered when you talk about it, to be honest, from what I've seen. I don't really think it's that big of a deal. Like, I think it's, you can do it, it's okay. I don't know if the upside is necessarily there when it comes to, like, if you're getting a lower grade on one of these one-of-ones. I think with modern stuff, honestly, it is hard, in my opinion, to find cards that are like modern cards that are really getting like low grades because the production cost is just so much higher. Or not production cost, sorry, the production of the cards is so much better than it used to be. So like that could be the reason why a lot of modern cards are getting better grades, and we're seeing a lot more PSA 10s, obviously, and that's not even really to get into, like, the basketball prisms with, like, Luka. Like, there just is it seems like there's almost every single card is graded for Luka, like, and so there's so many PSA 10s, but it just feels like the autograph market of modern cards, and maybe that's what it is, too. Maybe it's a modern card thing where it's like, PSA is grading more autographs and the cards are getting better grades because of the production quality of the card itself. Now, I think that these are all interesting. I think these are all pretty interesting topics that, if you have a different opinion than me, I can see it from both sides. Like, there definitely isn't a one-size-fits-all here with this solution to grading cards, or who you should get your cards graded from, or the short print one-of-ones, or the grading of one-of-ones and stuff like that. I think there's tons of different solutions for all of these different topics. So, I think this card is definitely going to be a big card. I'll be interested to see when the regular card kind of comes out, like, or when it comes out of a pack, like, who gets to grade it, because it definitely feels like nowadays we are seeing a lot of people grading some of these really high value one-of-ones and getting them into a PSA slab or Beckett or SGC. But for the majority, we're seeing a lot of sports are going with PSA over those other companies, even if they're autographs. So it's actually pretty remarkable, honestly, that we've really seen CJ Stroud really over the past few weeks really cement himself as probably going to win Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year. Obviously, this past Sunday, he had, I think it was 450 yards and 4 touchdowns or 5 touchdowns. And then he had a crazy drive with like no timeouts at the end of the game to win the game against the Buccaneers this past weekend, I think is who they played. Now, I know that there have been some smaller products, but now we are starting to see the releases of some of the bigger products. Like, we've gotten the Prism design, so I would imagine Prism Football will probably be out in December at some point, if I had to guess. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but we are seeing, like, Mosaic has been released, and I guess I mean, we're 9 weeks into the season, almost 10 weeks into the season, I think. I think the Patriots are 3-6 or 3-7, so yeah, we're 9 or 10 weeks into the season here. I don't understand how they don't just start the release schedule a little bit earlier. Like, I get that, and it probably is because they have to have these draft products that come out before the regular NFL products, but like, and also it's a little bit too late, so they're obviously not going to mess with the schedule for Panini, obviously, but I'm hoping when Topps takes over that, I think that Topps is going to come in with a much better release strategy for football, hopefully. Like, I mean, realistically, we should be getting Prism, like week 1 of the NFL season is when I would like to see Prism, or week 1 of the season is when I'd like to see like Optic or some big release, or like I said, and this has been an ongoing topic in my head of like, what is the perfect release schedule? When should these products be coming out? And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I guess Topps wouldn't have Prism, So I guess it would be different. It'd be Topps Chrome or whatever. Yeah, Topps Chrome would probably ends up being the flagship product for football. And I'm wondering if there's going to be a Topps Chrome and a Topps Chrome update the same way there is with baseball, because no, I don't think there would be, because they probably will get all of the big I don't know, actually. I'm not sure what they'll do with football, because, and same with basketball, because there are rookies that end up making their debuts later on in the season. Now, any of the top guys are obviously going to be in a first release of Topps Chrome for basketball or for football, because they know who those guys are. All the top quarterbacks. That's basically all you have to worry about, really, is those top quarterbacks. I mean, actually, really, any position player in the first, and all the quarterbacks, and then any position player. I mean, I can't imagine, there aren't that many position players. Like, maybe there's some undrafted free agents that end up going on that season to make their debuts, and that would then probably cause a potential Topps update for Topps Chrome, which, like I said, it's different because for flagship for Topps, there is like a flagship set that I think is going to end up taking over when they get that NFL license, where right now the flagship set, like I talked about on Hobby Hotline this past week, like, is Prism the flagship set for Panini? Like, I would say yes, probably. Like, Panini doesn't do, like, they don't, like, Topps has, like, I think it's called Topps flagship, but just on, like, the product itself, I'm pretty sure it's just, like, Topps 2023 Topps. So, like, Panini doesn't do, like, just a 2023 Panini product, I guess. And I think you could also look at, like, Donruss or Optic. Like, I think if you're looking at, like, a paper product that's probably more in the flagship, like, Donruss probably makes sense. Optic is probably another one. And this is sort of the difference in strategy, actually, with products with Panini. Like, it feels like, and also it could also, and honestly, it probably is also that, like, over the past year or so, Panini probably could have marketed products a little bit differently, but, like, the fact that they know kind of that they're losing some of these licenses probably makes it so that they're not, the marketing teams and the people are probably looking at it and saying, well, we have bigger issues than to figure out a new, different schedule for releases, like, for products. Now, I guess if you're, like, and I said, I would like to see the Super Bowl. I think the maybe middle of the season, but I just think, like, earlier on in the year for football, they need to come out with a bigger product. I just don't think that they are. Maybe Topps will do this. Maybe they'll have, like, a flagship set, and then they'll have a Topps Chrome set. Maybe that's where Topps Chrome does come out later on in the year, and they do, like, a Series 1 and Series 2 for the flagship paper set, and they just do in Series 1, maybe they do it very similarly, where they do all the rookies and the big players from the draft in that first version of the flagship set. Maybe that comes out week 1, and then maybe, like, week 11, or maybe closer to the end of the season, that's when they come out with Series 2, because then they'll know, like, what rookies will be in the product. Like, I don't know if there's necessarily, no, I mean, maybe they would need to, I don't know, I guess it would be tough. Maybe it's even, they do the flagship set, and then the Topps Chrome set is like their Topps update, because I'm thinking, like I said, I'm kind of brainstorming here, and I'm kind of spitballing a little bit of how I think Topps will do their strategy, because they do have this flagship set, and I'm just wondering how they're going to get all of the football rookies in the year, because, like, it's not like baseball where it's like you can say after X amount of games, a player can still be a rookie the next year if they make their debut after a certain date. Like, that's not the case in football. Like, in football, it's really like a rookie is a rookie within that season. Like, it really doesn't matter if they make their debut in week 11, or if they, if it takes them, I don't know, like 5, 6, 7 weeks for them to really start producing. Like, that doesn't really matter for football. So, like, I mean, I guess, like, I don't even know how often that happens, too. Like, now that I'm kind of, again, saying some things out loud, like, I don't even know how often a player makes their debut so late in the season. Like, I guess it really doesn't matter necessarily. Like, with basketball, it is kind of like that, where, like, Ben Simmons was out for the whole first year after he was drafted, so technically he was in 2016 Prism, but he won Rookie of the Year in 2017. Now, that, Ben Simmons was obviously like a top pick, like, so that also would lead to him to being in that product. I don't know, like, and I guess it's kind of also like the offensive linemen and defensive backs, like, how are they going to approach that? Because those players need rookie cards too, and maybe it's even like they do just a rookie product, potentially. Like, maybe they do like a flagship with all 199 rookies, and then they figure out a way to, I don't know. I mean, I guess if they could do a 400 player checklist with the top 200 players in the league, technically. Like, I don't know if I don't know how they would do it, though. That's kind of the thing. This is sort of where I'm spitballing a little bit here. So but like I said, also, this is the kind of the other point on this podcast that I'm going to make before I sort of wrap things up, is that, like, CJ Stroud, Panini is probably licking their chops right now, the fact that CJ Stroud has really come on to be like this monster pick that was number 2, because Bryce Young is not really doing that well. Like, the Panthers are pretty bad. So, like, CJ Stroud is probably going to be one of the biggest players that are coming out of this year's product for rookies. And as I will remind you on any time I talk about rookies, do not buy to flip these cards, because in the offseason, in a year or two, there's going to be the new shiny rookie that is going to come out and is going to be the top player, and you're gonna have to have probably sold those other cards to buy these new cards if you want to buy them. Or, like I said, sometimes with the hobby being so diverse and being so many different ways to do it, you can go ahead and buy those cards as well, because that's kind of what I've seen. As many videos or as many times I can tell people don't buy the new rookies, there will literally always be people buying those new rookies. And even though I don't agree with that strategy, it's just something that is always going to happen in the hobby. These are definitely some of the good days when it comes to content creation within sports cards, because, the topic is just right there. You don't have to really search for it. So late last night, Darren Ravel tweeted out a picture of a LeBron James dual autograph with the Bowman U logo. Now, I've seen some other reports that, like, somebody has a source over at Fanatics that this apparently was rumored, and last week the source at Fanatics told somebody, but they weren't really super sure. So I guess it's still something where we're waiting on a Topps announcement here. I mean, I'll be interested to know, like, the pre-orders, like, when those go up for Bowman U, like, what those are going to go for, and if this is going to be like an insane product, because this is going to be one of the first one of the first non-upper deck LeBron autos in like forever, because he's always been that he's always been an upper deck athlete. I think I don't know if it's a conspiracy theory or if it's a rumor, was apparently during some of LeBron's rookie year and then a couple years afterwards, Panini had some LeBron autographs, but I guess they were like not selling them or something like that. They were like hoarding them. I forget the exact story, but apparently it was just like Panini was acting a little bit shady with the LeBron autographs around his rookie year. So his agent, Rich Paul, basically was like, we're going to Upper Deck. Like, we're going to sign an exclusive. We're going to sign an exclusive for a long time. So basically throughout almost all of LeBron's career, he's been exclusive to Upper Deck, which means he really doesn't have many. I don't think he has any, like, National Treasures RPA, well, not RPAs, but, like, patch autographs, or no Prism autographs in the past few years. I mean, thinking about it, it's really insane how I feel like LeBron has done a pretty good job at limiting the amount of autographs in products, or just autographs in general. I feel like sometimes when athletes overdo their autographs, and this is one of the complaints I think a lot of collectors of autographs have with some athletes, is that they just sign everything and they don't really care about what they're signing. So, like, what ends up happening is their autographs really just don't have much value. Like, some there's probably some athletes that, like, if you're getting their autograph, you probably can't even at a show or something, you probably can't even get the autograph and then really sell it for what you paid for it. There's probably a ton of athletes that are like that. But like I said, we are potentially, like, Topps hasn't come out with the announcement. And I saw, I think, Slab Stocks was questioning that this rumor was true. I mean, I don't know. The card itself, I guess, Darren Ravel has been pretty good at breaking these news. But like I said, Slapstocks, I think, was saying that, they didn't really have a source. Like, well, I guess, which is interesting because it's like Darren Rovell, I guess, would technically be the source for it. Like, obviously, Rovell is not going to tweet out who told him, because that's not how that's not how scoops and stuff like that work. So, Topps hasn't announced it fully yet. I would imagine over the next few months, they will announce something. Like, I don't know when, but it was something that a lot of people probably speculated, because over the summer, when LeBron James was at a Los Angeles Dodgers game, they did a LeBron Mookie Betts card, which was one of the first Topps LeBron's cards we've seen in quite some time. And now, obviously, it's not a basketball card. That's not really like I don't know. I feel like it could be a card eventually down the road that has a little bit of value. I don't know what the print run wasn't necessarily, because it was a Topps Now card, but it was one of the first times Topps had released a LeBron card in like quite some time. Now, the Bowman U card actually has him in his St. Vincent St. Mary's jersey, obviously, because he didn't go to college, and they're not going to get him in the NBA jersey because it's a Bowman U product, and they don't have the basketball license, so they're not going to get him. But like, the interesting thing with LeBron is that, like, I think that there is somebody may be able to correct me here, but I've heard people talking about how, like, the reason why Jordan isn't in Panini products is, like, he's not part of the Players Association. I think that's what it is, or I forget exactly the correlation here, but somebody, I think it was Mojo Breaks a while ago, I heard them talking about this. They were saying that LeBron's going to be the same thing. Like, it's going to be basically the same with LeBron. Once he retires, he's just not going to be in any Panini products. Now, he has signed the exclusive. He hasn't signed an exclusive yet, but then also there was rumors, or Ken Golden was saying on an Instagram Live at some point that he had it under good authority, good terms, that his Upper Deck exclusive contract had expired, which then kind of correlates with that first Topps card, and then is now also correlating with this potential first Topps autograph. I mean, we've seen Topps and Fanatics over this past year make a bunch of moves that I think have been in preparation to try and make this move. Like, and I would say, of all the athletes they could get, this is probably one of the biggest. It's probably the biggest, if I'm going to be honest. Like, I think getting LeBron, whether he is live or he's still playing in the league, getting him as an exclusive or signing him to some sort of deal with Topps when Topps is about to get the basketball license is like a massive, massive deal. Topps over the past few years, like I just said, they signed Bronny James. They brought over, I believe it was a new it was a player's manager, I think it was. I forget the exact term. It was like it was a C-level executive that they brought over from LeBron's agency, which is LeBron and Rich Paul's agency, but they brought over to be like a player, I forget the exact term of what they brought him over to do, but essentially he was like one of the people in charge of player relations. Sorry, I think that's the term that they use. Like a C-level player relations manager. They brought them over from LeBron James and Rich Paul's agency. So it was just a matter of time, in my opinion, for this to happen. I don't know. It really is almost one of those things that I feel like I could sit here and be like, well, when they did all those things, I kept saying the bigger fish is LeBron. I feel like that was what everybody was saying. Like, it wasn't really, like, it's not like if you look at like soccer way back in the day, I was one of the first people really talking about soccer, like Mbappe. Like, I bought a bunch of Mbappe cards when the summer right before soccer popped, and I was talking about soccer, and I was talking about Erling Haaland and all these things. I feel like when the stuff about Bronny James and the manager coming over were coming in, like, pretty much everybody was like, okay, LeBron is probably the big signing here that they're trying to get. Now, like I said, I guess this technically is still just a rumor. So if we go, a couple months from now and Topps doesn't come out with any type of announcement, I mean, I guess it'll be interesting to see if they, the Bowman U product, like, It's probably going to come out, next year at some point. We'll see even if Bronny James is cleared to play. I know that they were saying that he still needs to get medical clearance to play because he had that heart issue over the summer. So, if Bronny James doesn't play, like, what does this card really even, does that make the card less valuable? I don't really know necessarily, but getting any type of LeBron auto, I think, is really going to drive up these prices. And I really hope that Topps comes out with some sort of announcement and clarifies this sooner rather than later, because we've seen over the past couple months, past year or so, Topps has sort of had these rumors come out, and they let sort of these things kind of keep rolling and keep driving up prices for some of the marketing that they don't have to pay for, really. And then they come out with some of the more information, more clarity on the thing. So I'm really hoping that if this is the case, if they really did get LeBron, that they do come out and say that they signed LeBron, because that would be, again, I think that would be one of the biggest deals for sports cards, maybe of this, past 10, 15, 20 years, I guess you could say. But we'll see. We still have to wait for Topps to actually come out with a full announcement about that. So we have a little bit of a callback to yesterday's episode. The checklist for Bowman Chrome basketball, for Bowman U Chrome basketball, has been released, and the LeBron Bronny James double auto is on the checklist, at least from what I saw. I was using Cardboard Connections. I was looking for the checklist on Topps' website. I couldn't find it. I'm sure it's there somewhere. I'm actually not. I was looking through where I thought the checklist would be. Like I said, I couldn't find it. But we also got confirmation that Bronny James is going to be getting his first Bowman Chrome, and then Angel Reese, the LSU phenomenon from last year's the women's finals, she's going to be also getting her first Bowman card. So that's very exciting. Like I said, it was a rumor. Looks like the Bowman autograph, or the Bowman checklist is out. So LeBron James, he is on the checklist for that dual autograph, which is kind of wild. I guess it's a good product to put him in first, because he's not necessarily going to be in the first NBA product. If you really want to get him into products, I guess this is a good one, because you can also get that Bronny James card in there as well. Now, granted, like I said, we're waiting on to see if he's going to be cleared. I would imagine he probably will be. But so that's the first card. There's two other cards that have also been confirmed. So the first Messi, or not the first Messi, but the first Messi in packs for Topps is going to be coming out. That card got confirmed. I believe that should be at some point in November. We also are in the middle of the MLS playoffs, which is very exciting. At this point, the Philadelphia may have beaten the Revolution, so my Revolution might be out, unfortunately. But I guess we'll see what happens there. But I would guess this means that we're probably going to get Messi autographs. I mean, they're probably going to be pretty short printed. I'm not sure with Topps Soccer if they do the same autograph structure that they do with some of the other products. Like if they do like the number to 99s, and I guess there would probably be a 1 of 1 if I had to guess. Now, it's going to be a good product this year. I mean, the first Messi MLS card is going to be very interesting. I think actually MLS products in general, if you're a soccer, investor, collector, someone who likes buying sealed wax, that's probably going to hold some value. I would say the past few years, the MLS products have been pretty good. Like, there aren't that many of them, so you're really only getting, I think the first real product that came out was back in 2019. I know there was a Bowman Next product that was a print-on-demand product that had the Brennan Aronson. If you're a U.S. soccer fan, you know Brennan Aronson. He's kind of underperformed a little bit this season so far, so, it is what it is, but he is definitely a shining star when it comes to the U.S. players, and he was in a Bowman Chrome set, so his first card, is coming out of a print-on-demand, set. Not even just a card. It's they did it where you order a certain amount of sets, and then the cards got collated in the set overall. So, and then the past few years, they've been adding more and more products. I think we've seen, a Topps Finest, we've seen a Topps Chrome, we've seen a regular Topps, but over the past few years, it's really not like baseball or any of the other sports that Topps have, where there's tons of MLS products. There's really only a handful of products. So, if you are, I don't know, if you're looking into MLS prospects, also, this is something that I've said on hundreds of other podcasts. You know, you can go back and listen to any of the soccer podcasts I did over the summer. I'm a big proponent nowadays of MLS versus, you know, other leagues, because MLS is they're maturing, and it's actually the same way with the WNBA. MLS and the WNBA, I think, are very similar because of the way that the age of the leagues, if I'm going to be honest. That's why I think, like, they're both in that early, almost 30 years. Like, I think the MLS 25th season was either last year or the year before, and then I think this past season was the 25th season for the WNBA. So I think of them very similarly. Now, I also actually even think of them similarly because there aren't that many WNBA products as well. So, you know, and I think that the way that talent is coming through the MLS pipeline nowadays is much different than it used to be in the past. So if you're looking to buy, like, off the top of my head, I don't know of any of the major rookies that are going to be in this year's product. I'm sure there's a few. But there's going to be the first Messi card. And now the other card that I want to talk about on this podcast that's been confirmed was a Tyson Beck Topps CJ Stroud collaboration. Now, if you listen to this podcast, maybe you know, maybe you don't know that Tyson Beck is one of my favorite artists just in general. Like, he's a sports artist, and when I was kind of in graphic design much more than I am today, he was like the guy that I looked up to. He was like my hero. I don't want to necessarily call him a hero, but like, he was like the guy that I looked at as, like, he is one of the most successful sports artists I would consider of all time, doing like crazy collabs. And then the fact that this is a CJ Stroud Topps card, I think is a big deal. And if you go to Tyson Beck's Twitter, you'll find the cards. I think they did a really good job at using a picture that really doesn't make it look like it's non-licensed. It really looks like a pretty solid Photoshop job with the way that the jersey is photoshopped and then the way that the helmet is facing the camera. I think that they chose either a really great picture. I think that they chose a picture because the way that Tyson Beck designs stuff, he kind of has, at least with these last couple collabs, he has sort of like a cartoony-ish feel to some of the styles that he kind of, the way that he does his designs, at least with the last few, and that could be on purpose, honestly, to sort of maybe adjust the way that, if it's not going to be a licensed card, maybe they want it to look that way, so that way they can have a little bit more creative freedom on, like, how they actually have the card design. But like I said, I think that they did a phenomenal job, honestly, choosing the picture, because like I said, you can see the blue helmet, you can see the blue jersey, but like the way that they have the text on the card, it kind of covers where some of the uniform would be, and the helmet is kind of, it's angled in a design, in a way that, like, you can see that obviously it's Photoshop, you don't see the logo on the helmet, but I think he did a good job at choosing that photo where you can see that it still is a Texans helmet. Now, obviously, we're going to see over the next few years, Topps is going to be getting these licenses, so I'll be interested to see how Tyson Beck does with other artists. I mean, he's done collabs with, like, Steph Curry. I mean, really some of the biggest artists, some of the biggest players in the world. So, like, he also was like, he was the original designer of Topps Fire, which unfortunately is a set that was a Target exclusive for a while, and it actually was a set that Topps doesn't come out with anymore. And the first year that he did it, I believe it was either 2017 or 2018, so, like, you can find Topps Fire Ohtani rookies, you can find some Ronald Acuna rookies, you can find some really solid cards and some pretty low print run cards too. Like, even though it was a Topps exclusive, or I mean a Target exclusive, I think that they did a good job at really kind of limiting the amount of cards on the original releases. I think later on down the road, they did come out with, like, hobby boxes and, like, larger boxes that were sold at Target, and then you could find them also at hobby shops and stuff. But I think this is another card, like I said, with CJ Stroud. I mean, again, CJ Stroud's absolutely he's crushing it this year. Like, you know, if it's really a good, it was good that he was able to choose CJ Stroud over, like, any of the other rookies. I mean, I think Bryce Young kind of he's not playing for a team that's really that good. I mean, maybe CJ Stroud is playing over his potential right now, and maybe the Texans are playing over their potential. But either way, you have a really good set that I think is going to come out, and it's it's going to be probably similar to the 2020 project with they have you can probably do maybe you can do print on demand, and then they're going to have certain levels where you can get autographs and numbered cards. So these are some of the big cards that it's like I said, it's great that in the past few days we've seen some pretty big stories that have come out of the sports card world, because over the past few weeks we've kind of been limited a little bit. And I want to talk about all of these topics on this show, because I felt like with all these amount of topics, I feel like you could do an individual episode. If this was a couple weeks ago, I may have done an individual episode on each of these cards. But since there has been a lot more news kind of coming out of the news cycle, it's exciting to talk about all of these cards, and we were able to do it all on one episode. Now, we have seen $1 million cards sell a couple in the past year. I'd be interested in, I guess probably Card Ladder has this data. How many cards have sold over 500K? The card that I'm going to be talking about on today's podcast didn't sell for 500, sold for basically just under. It was the 1-of-1 Superfractor autograph for Ronald Acuna Jr., sold through a private sale with Golden for $430,000. Now, I think that's encouraging. I think based on sort of what we've seen and kind of some of the trends within cards, to see, if I want to be honest, in my opinion, I think that's one of the biggest Bowman Superfractor autos right now. I think you're looking at if there's a Mookie Betts one. I don't even know if there's a Mookie Betts one. There is a Trout, obviously, that sold Vegas Dave. I don't know. I think he did sell it. I forget if he sold it or not. I know he bought it. But there's that card. I mean, in the MLB, really, there aren't too many cards that I could look at and say that is going to be a historic type of card. This card for Ronald Acuna, I think, should be, and probably will be. I think just because Acuna he's one of the rising stars in the league. I mean, honestly, if you're saying 2018, rookies from 18 to now, he's probably number one next to Ohtani, and Ohtani isn't necessarily. He was a rookie in the MLB in 2018, not a little bit obviously older because he was coming over from Japan, but so if we're taking Ohtani out of the mix, he's probably one or two that I could think of, if I'm going to be honest. He is just. He's a superstar, and he's playing in a great market in Atlanta. He's playing for an Atlanta team that is going to be good over the next few years. It is unfortunate that if he goes on for his career and he doesn't win any more World Series, that the only ring he'll have is in the season where he tore his ACL and he was out. But I feel like Acuna's name has such a staying power, if I'm going to be honest, in the hobby. Now, we could, in a few years from now, be looking at I don't think Acuna will do this, but we have seen it over the past where players in the second half of their career kind of peter off a little bit. But I don't think Acuna is going to do that. But this 1-of-1 selling in a private sale through Golden, I also think that's interesting that it didn't go to auction, I guess, which one thing that I thought was kind of interesting that I don't know if other people have had this experience. I was looking for the October Elite auctions for Golden. It was impossible to find the results. I finally figured it out. It literally took me half an hour. I was searching everywhere on the website, and eventually I went to results, and then there was past, there was the option to find this set of auctions. It was hard to find. I couldn't find it, and I don't know if that's something that Golden did on purpose, maybe because the auctions weren't as good. We did see that $1 million PSA 8 Mickey Mantle sell, which that was down pretty significantly from the past couple of years, probably almost 50%, down from $2 million. So I don't know if Golden was making it harder to find these auctions, but and this could be a user error. I'm not going to sit here and say that, I use the internet pretty frequently and I use websites. Obviously, I design for our site. So I feel like I should understand the UI and the user experience of the website. And this one, it was just I couldn't figure it out. And maybe that's on me, whatever. But so this card doesn't go to auction. It goes through a private sale through Golden. I am interested, I guess, why maybe it did and it didn't go to auction. maybe the card was in a PSA vault or something, and that's why the person decided to go through Golden, or maybe there was just a consignment thing. Realistically, there's probably a little bit of a commission that Golden got, so I don't know. And then obviously you're paying taxes and all these types of things. And that's a whole nother story. Which, if you're buying and selling sports cards, account for taxes, account for just do 50%. Honestly, if you're selling a card, just account for 50% of that to eBay to go to taxes, basically, because that's where, in the past, I feel like that's something that I don't think, and I don't even actually think I'm necessarily a good representation of to talk about this. Like, there are other good people, I think, online. Like, I think on there are other good, if you look up sports card taxes, you'll find much better videos of mine, or not of mine, much better videos that I'm explaining right now. But if you want to be safe, 50% basically is what you really should be saving. Best case scenario down the road, it's less than 50% that you have to pay, and then you made a little bit of extra money maybe there potentially. But either way, so this Acuna card sells. I think it's a great card. I think, it's encouraging that we're seeing six-figure sales almost in the $500,000 range still, because of what we've seen over the past few months, and even just this past year, with a lot of cards kind of dropping pretty significantly in value. To see a player who didn't even make the World Series, I think the Diamondbacks, I forget if they swept Atlanta or if it was a close, I think it was closer to a sweep than it being a close series. So, if you are somebody who is interested in Acuna, this is definitely going to be a card that I don't know if this card will ever sell again until maybe Acuna retires or he goes to the World Series, because it's again, this is something I also talk about. It's opportunity costs. Somebody may have overpaid for this card, but it's the amount of opportunities you have to buy a card like this, it's rare. Especially with the fact that sure, there are some cards that people know where they're going, so there's ways to contact people that have the cards, but it's if this card was just to sell, I don't know, at a show or something, there would be no way necessarily really of knowing, unless you are reaching out and trying to get more info of who this card sold to or from, and get the info if you're trying to buy it. Which, that's another great thing about social media nowadays. It's we know that this card sold, where back in the day, this card could have sold private sale through Golden, and we wouldn't even have really known, because if there was no social media, there's no one really to tell. You could have probably gotten word of mouth, but at the same time, word of mouth is just one person to the next at a show. So it's it has changed the way that we view sales like this, because we know of them. And I think people are sort of starting to realize that, and I think that actually could be almost why there's a little bit of an effect on certain card prices nowadays, because it's so easy to, and obviously this is one of one, so it's a little bit different, but certain cards, we've seen it become much easier to find comps for, to find information about, to know when a card specifically sold, or who it's sold to, or how much it's sold for. It's just become a lot easier, which I think is really great for the hobby, because it helps the transparency. And I understand that there's still such a long way to go when it comes to transparency in the hobby. I'm not sitting here saying we've figured it all out. There are still tons of shill bidding going on. There's still tons of shill bidding going on with some of the biggest sellers on eBay, So it's eBay, they kicked off PWCC, but it's they still have other people on the site who are shill bidding all the time. It's that doesn't really make much sense. I think it probably was more of, and I know PWCC Golden, two different places, but I think it was probably more of they heard that PWCC was starting their marketplace, and that's why they got kicked off. I don't really know. That's a conspiracy. Maybe that's speculation. But Golden sold this Acuna card for $430,000. Like I said, I think it's encouraging. You could argue that they may be overpaid, but at the same time, it's who's really to say? Because it is a one of one, and these sales of these one of ones are so few and far between that it can be kind of hard to gauge what these cards really should be selling for in the first place.